Even when the system is live, the cost meter doesn't stop running. Every scan, every reconciliation, every exception adds financial weight. The question now isn't what did it cost to build? The question now is what does it cost to operate?
Let's complete the journey with the costs, and I think you will complete now with the operational cost. And if you are, يعني, if you think about the costs, I think operational cost and operational challenge is one of the very important points in the track and trace implementation. Why? Because the track and trace affects the receiving process, the dispatching process, the preparation process, and the return process. So most of the warehouse operations affected by the track and trace. So as we mentioned earlier, this need a very well training for the operator, engage the operator earlier in the implementation of the track and trace to ensure 100% a successful implementation of track and trace in your facility. One of the operational costs is the process slowdown. That's why this because you add a scanning steps in each operation inside their house in receiving, picking, dispatching, and also in returning process. Of course, this is will increase the time which the operator will spend on verification of each product he will receive or shipment that he will receive. Of course, also one of the operational cost is the workflow changes across the operation because of the track and trace. Because during the processing of each order or any item, you need also to scan the each unit or each serial of the products that you will dispatch. One also of the point is the rework, product rework. Of course, if you have a problem in serialization process, you need to do another rework to ensure 100% that the product is 100% is serialized. Or also, if you have a problem in aggregation process, you need to have a rework to ensure that the carton or the pallet are aggregating the serials and preparing the correct EBCIS file for this shipment. One of the challenges, one of the main challenges in the operational cost also is the software challenge. Because as we mentioned earlier, if you don't have integration between your current software and your track and trace software, so your or if you are using the national hub directly, you report through the national hub for track and trace, and you are using your ERP or WMS for your current operation, so you are using two parallel systems. So the operator need to receive the shipment through the track and trace software and also receive the shipment through the entire software, enterprise software, which is ERP or WMS. And this, of course, will cost double of work for the operator because he, instead of receiving once, he receiving the shipment twice on two different parallel systems.
Yep, operational costs isn't just about scanning. It can be because systems don't line up and you create additional fat in your operations. As you say, the warehouse runs a WMS and a parallel serialization system without integration. So you have two data sets. Additional procedures means work reconciling mismatches and coordinating teams and support. It's all a cost, right? Businesses in this situation can start small and understand the gaps with verifiable data, right? They could export the same shipment from both systems, run a simple reconciliation for duplicates, missing serials, pack counts, batch expiry alignment. This gives you evidence and the baseline requirement. So you know what your alignment priorities are for receiving, picking, packing, dispatch, and returns. And from there, you can ask your vendors for lightweight queries of a system based on your understanding now what you want from your data, right? I mean, most modern and contemporary systems already have APIs or workflow hooks. Sometimes it can be just as simple as adding one button to trigger a status check, right? And that's a potential path how you could move two parallel systems to cooperating, which is exactly what we mean by Industry 4.0 in practice, right? So you cannot do this effectively with proprietary technologies. You must stick with a standard for your data, because you want to be the owner of better data, right? If you treat that data as a commodity you're responsible for, it pays you back with fewer errors, cleaner recalls, returns, tighter expiry management, like real FIFO, not FIFO by hope. And you don't need a department of data scientists, right? It's 2025. Everyone does a bit of data analysis, operators, supervisors, QA. I mean, even ChatGPT, right? You can do an export, a duplicate check, a quick exception list. These are everyday skills now, right? And you have to start with that manual proof, then automate what works. Don't just automate without understanding the fundamentals. So is operational cost real? Absolutely, right? But first, ensure the work you're paying for is the right work. And second, ensure it returns something, automation, efficiency, insight, and compare with other vendors. Don't trust one alone.
Very valid point, Justin, because of course we know that there is a cost for the track and trace implementation. There is a cost for integration. There is a cost for operational cost. But as you mentioned, how to transform these costs to a benefits or to a values. I think we will talk it in another episode. But let's
Yes.
take it. Let's mention through operational cost. Okay, fine. There will be some delay in the process because of scanning in each step, but also there is a positive impact for this. For example, because of you are scanning every serial or every box before you dispatch it, so your inventory accuracy it will increase significantly. If you scan every and each unit when you dispatch it or before you dispatch it, you will ensure 100% there is no missing items for your customers. This is will increase the customer satisfaction. Also, there is will keep your inventory accuracy at a very high level. This is also will impact your warehouse KPIs. So although the operational cost is cost me a time, but it will affect my warehouse KPIs in a positive way. By the way, Justin, the operational cost is I think is the most valuable point which will lead the successful implementation of the track and trace or failure.
100%, I would agree.
If your
Like,
operator
yes.
and your operation is going is went well, your track and trace implementation will working fine, and it will be successfully implemented your track and trace solution in your facility. But if your operation, you have a problem with your operator resist your current software solution, or they resist the mindset change of the track and trace, of course you will have a severe failure in your in your operation. You will have a bottleneck in receiving a process. You will have a bottleneck in dispatching a process. so you will have a big failure in your track and trace implementation.
Even after the machines are installed, the systems integrated, and the people trained, another cost remains: the ongoing cost of operations, reporting, scanning, reconciling, the daily work that keeps the rhythm of the system alive. This is where compliance stops being a project and becomes a permanent line on the balance sheet. Next are the costs of hardware and infrastructure.
Most of us know the cost of the hardware and infrastructure. Most of us know this. Hardware means serialization machines, aggregation machines, the barcode scanners, which is available to read JSON data matrix barcode. If you have a tablets or handhelds to read also the JSON data matrix code, or read also the SCs on boxes or pallets. This is all these hardwares are costly, of course, and add a additional cost for the customer. Sometimes they have, especially pharmacies, they have a barcode scanner in their facility, but these barcodes not support the reading the JSON data matrix, so they need to replace these barcodes to with another barcodes which is support another scanners which is support the JSON data matrix reading. Of course, as we speak on a cloud-based level 5, so I need to have a network setup because you need to report your transaction, your returner transactions at a real time with each transaction. You need to report receiving, dispatching, preparing, and return even at once. So you need to have a full infrastructure networking and ensure 100% that the network is working fine, of course.
Spending $500,000 on lines without planning for scanners, handhelds, and especially network resilience, it's like buying a sports car and ignoring the tires. And the most barcode frustration is configuration problems. It's not really a capability problem. If the devices are specified or set up without GS1 data matrices in mind, you can end up with hardware that might not do the job. And today, Android tablets and handhelds offer far more flexibility, better user experience. You can take photos. They come often at a lower cost than legacy industrial scanners, and especially when workflows need those photos or signatures or real-time exceptions management even. So at the line level, some systems will always require on-site compute, right? Even in a cloud-first world. But your printers, vision systems, and line management servers will need to sit inside the facility, and they need to be treated as critical infrastructure. And it's not about the hardware being expensive, it's about the hardware being essential. There is no compliant operation without the equipment and the networks to make it possible. The technology can work, the data can flow, but none of it matters without the infrastructure beneath it: the hardware, the scanners, and the networks, and the systems that hold the entire operation together. The machines can run, the systems can speak, but compliance isn't just about technology. It's about consequences and what happens when things go wrong. Our next cost topic is compliance and legal risk costs.
This is, of course, If you're not compliant, you will have a fines. If you are not complying, you will have a seized or a blocked shipment. Will stop at the customs. You will, of course, you will lose a time because your shipment is blocked at the customs till you solve this problem. Or your shipment will return back to your supplier if it is not reported to the track and trace national hub. Sometimes your product is suspended from registration or distribution license. You will lose it if you continue not you don't have a compliance with the national hub. And this is, of course, you will lose an opportunity in the market. You will lose the opportunity in even in on the forecasting time. You will lose a time in availability of your product in the market if you have a problem on the availability of the product because of the reporting process. Also, you will lose money because of fines. If you have a fines, uh, and some of the regulators is announce the fines, so you will find your name that you maybe have a fines. You will have a problem in maybe some of your supplier because you are not complying, so you are not applying a high quality standards because at least you are not reporting the shipments. So maybe this is not a good repetition for you if you are not complying with the track and trace national hub, which is considered in some points that is this is one of the quality standards. If you are not complying with it, this is not a good repetition for you in the pharmaceutical market.
It's interesting for me to hear this because enforcement of compliance doesn't look the same everywhere. In some regions, the regulators may be too soft, maybe to avoid disrupting the supply chain. And sometimes even the vendors don't favor strict enforcement because if enforcement improves and results are published, it becomes very clear which companies are underperforming, right? And often that underperformance isn't just about vendor training. It's about a lack of awareness, maybe a lack of training, not enough resources or no proper processes and technical agreements in place, right? A lack of alignment. And of course, the software itself could be a contributing factor. And stronger enforcement would potentially verify that very quickly if that was the case. But in places like Saudi Arabia, the approach is very different, and I have to say I like their approach. They enforce the compliance, they issue fines, and on top of that, they publish top performers, companies who consistently meet the standards, raising awareness and setting a bar. So yeah, that combination of enforcement and transparency, I think, genuinely changes behavior and again raises awareness. It might feel like a stick for some people, and some might say that it's not fair to put companies on a scoreboard. But I feel it encourages healthy competition, even competition, and it absolutely shapes customer perception of which suppliers can be trusted.
Correct. Yes, this is an example for Saudi FDA RASD platform, which is the national hub in Saudi Arabia. They are announced fines on some facilities because they are not complying with the track and trace regulations. And as we mentioned earlier, if you are, for example, one of the supplier for these facilities, of course, this will not meets your requirements in this agent because of not complying with the track and trace national hub, which is as we mentioned, some standard or some sort of quality processes. So this is make a disturbance and make the supplier is worrying about his products if you have a fines from the regulators or the authorities. And also in the next slide, I'm sharing one of the slides, which is announced monthly by Saudi FDA RUSD, which is the top performance in achieving the highest level of compliance. Of course, this is an example for the best five wholesalers and companies in Saudi Arabia. If I am a supplier, on the other hand, if I am a supplier and see my agent in the best compliance agents, so I will be happy that I am dealing with this organization. And also, on the other hand, if I am a new visitor and I want to introduce my product to the Saudi Arabian market, and I'm looking for an agent, my first impression will be for the best top five, for example, or the best performance in the track and trace compliance, because if he achieves this with the national hub and achieves the highest percentage of the track and trace reporting, so I am sure this agent will be the right choice for me to invest with my products in the Saudi market through this agent. So as the fines is a problem, also the best achievement is also an opportunity to produce myself as a best agent, or the one of the top best agents performance in the Saudi market.
Exactly. And what I really like about that model is that it turns compliance into something visible, something that's measurable. It's not just a penalty system, but a performance indicator as well. You know, if you're entering a new market like Saudi Arabia and you see a publicly available list of companies who consistently meet the standards, that's incredibly useful when selecting an agent, for example, right? I think, you know, it also motivates healthy competition or even co-opetition, right? Because companies aren't trying to avoid fines. That's not their business yet. They're trying to be seen as reliable. So that visibility absolutely shapes how partners choose who to trust.
Correct.
Performance isn't just about avoiding failure. It's about demonstrating capability, visibility, consistently and publicly. And once you start measuring performance, another question emerges. What about the costs no one sees at first? We've talked about the visible costs, the hardware, the software, the training, the operations. But there's another category that every business discovers eventually. The costs you don't plan for, the costs that appear quietly, usually when something doesn't go the way it should. So, I think coming up to the final slide.
Yes, the hidden or indirect costs. Of course, there is a lot of hidden indirect and the indirect costs. Not only what is mentioned in the slide, maybe there is a lot options more that we didn't discover it yet, or we didn't identify it yet. Of course, some of this is the downtime during the system rollout, the downtime of the track and trace software, or sometimes the downtime of the national hub platform. Also, the one of the hidden cost is the poor implementation. If you have a poor implementation, or you failed in some of the go live warehouse scenarios, so of course you will find you will, this is will cost you some time to re-implement your your warehouse software in a correct way to successfully implement your track and trace software, and go live scenarios will go fine. Some of the poor implementation is coming from the integration side. So if you have a problem in your integration with your current software between your track and trace solution and with uh, uh, um, uh, with your current software. Also, if the integration failed, this is also one of the hidden costs that will cost you some time also. Of course, there is other hidden cost, which is the hiring consultant to have consultations. If you also have a local vendors, if you manage some service provider, all of this is some hidden costs you need to pay for it to ensure 100% successful implementation of the track and trace. One of the important point, I think we mentioned this earlier in the training part, is the cost of internal resistance. If you have an internal resistance, of course, this is will cost you some time to enforce them to obey or to align with the track and trace principles. But sometimes, as we mentioned in the operational code, sometimes the internal resistance maybe lead to the failure of the track and trace software or the failure of the track and trace implementation. So this is one of the hidden costs is the internal resistance. Also the productivity loss and some errors. Of course, after you implement the track and trace software, sometimes you have errors. Sometimes, of course, you have a slowdown in the process. Some of the operator lose their productivity. So all of these points are and more, by the way, is the hidden or indirect costs for applying the track and trace.
Yep, this is where the cost falls into two categories: the ones you can control and the ones that you can't. You can't control national hub downtime, you can't control when a regulator changes the rules, but you can control poor implementations, weak processes, unclear or even non existent requirements, and vendor lock ins, especially. And those are the hidden costs that hurt the most because they are preventable. The point we keep coming back to in this chapter is simple: compliance is not just a technical upgrade, it's a transformation. And the cost of getting that transformation wrong is always going to be higher than the cost of getting it right.
Like 100%. Thank you, Justin. And I think it is our turn also to our role here to turn the mentioned costs, try to convert this costs or use this cost to build on some other values of implementing the track and trace, because there is a lot of values or a lot of impacts, positive impacts for applying track and trace. Of course, the safety of the patient safety, of course, of the regulation, of course, to ensuring 100% that the correct items is in the market, prevent counterfeit, prevent the parallel market, prevent the gray market, but also there is other values or other impacts. You can enhance your warehouse KPI. You can also ensure that this market is a healthy market to invest in if you are applying track and trace in this market. So let's talk about this in details in the next episode, maybe next week.
Some costs are visible the moment the journey begins, others reveal themselves along the way. But all of them, every machine, every hour, every choice, shapes the foundations of serialization. We end chapter 1 where the industry itself often begins with cost. Next, we follow the questions that every business asks once the invoices are paid. Where does the value come from?